Today's guest is Kanav Kansal. Despite having an intellectual capacity that would make many arrogant, Kanav is one of the most kind, humble, and gentle people you could meet. Since moving to the US from India, he has come to know Jesus, and that has changed everything for him. I hope you're encouraged by this episode of Acts 420. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time. What do you hope to talk about today?
Yeah, thank you, Blake, for having me. I was really excited when I got your message and what you're doing on this platform, Apps 420, just to share our stories, a place where we can share our stories, what God has done in our lives. And God has been really good and faithful to me. So excited to share what He has done in my life, how He has saved me, how He brought me out here to the US and just put His uh, people around me, which who could show, um, who could reveal God to me, who could share God's love to me, and just
Hmm.
um, and what He's done in my life since then. I can start, from just my background, where I grew up, and just So so I'm originally from India. From North India, close to New Delhi area. Um, I grew up in a big family, around 15 people in three conjoined houses. So my grandparents were in our house with my parents, and then two of my uncles had their own houses right next to us. So I had like elder cousins and then uncle and aunts, grandparents, all. So very fun childhood growing up, and my family is very conservative Hindu religious family. So grew up with the idea of Hinduism, the Hindu gods. Like my mom um, taught me about all the Hindu gods and all the family traditions, rituals, festivals that we have to celebrate. So was taught the concept of karma as well. The idea of if you do good, you get good, and if you do bad, you will get bad in return. And this could happen maybe in this life, maybe in your next life or the next, because Hinduism believes in afterlife as well and reincarnation, that you can be born. If you do good, you'll be better. You'll be born into a good family or a better person in your afterlife, in your next life. Or you could be born as an animal as well if you do bad.
Hmm.
So always had the pressure of doing good and expecting good in return growing up. My family was super religious, so we would go to all the major temples, pilgrimages, and go to would follow these particular like sages or Hindu um, teachers, Hinduism teachers, and I would follow these priests as well and sort of ask them questions because I would never understand um, what relationship with God would look like for me. Why are we doing all these traditions? What do these rituals mean? But never got the right answers. Um, so things like this slowly started drifting me away from religion or Hinduism. And then in high school, I started studying science, and science started making more sense to me. Like I can, do things, or I can um, see the creation and start believing that in evolution and maybe there is no God. So I became more agnostic, and was more of just a cultural Hinduism follower just to please my parents. Um, they would ask me to fold my hands while praying, and I would just do that and just mumble some words. But um, in my heart and in my mind, I didn't believe in God. Um, so for me, the purpose of my life at that point was just to lead a good life, basically. Uh, be a, do get some good education, get a good job, earn money, and live a happy life. But still, in the back of my mind, the idea of karma was always there, of trying to do good and expect good in return from others around me. When I was in college in India, um, I got into a group of this community where the partying was the one and only thing, where either drinking, partying, and even trying to find my own identity in that group, I had to do that and take that on. Um, where a few months later, um, a near fatal crash when I was drunk driving, which could have almost killed me, really opened my eyes. And I had to step away from that whole identity and again put on some moral values for myself. That this is not, if I need to be a better person, I need to have better rules of my own. So I started reading some self-help books as well around that time. Around that similar time, I started in college. I had some my grades started slipping as well. So and I really started thinking of myself in a bad light, as like my parents have provided me with everything. Um, and in the cultural aspect, performance is a really big thing. Um, so I started hiding those results from my parents, and but that cycle kept going on where I took that pressure on myself of performing better um, each time, but I would start failing in exams. So even that led to almost having a lot of like suicidal thoughts as at some point, where I just couldn't handle the pressure of pleasing my parents and family at that point, where I had to come honest with my family, like this is what I'm going through in college and having these thoughts in my mind. But that's when my family met me with love, and which again I, instead of going to God at that point, I again started putting that on myself that I need to do better on my own strength. So and again, the cycle of just doing good on my own is how I plan to come to the US for education to do my master's in Dallas. And coming to Dallas, I thought, yeah, I would get a good education. And also, growing up, saw a lot of Hollywood movies, so had a really different idea or expectation in mind when I came to the US. But yeah, Dallas was nothing like Hollywood. Uh, so the first time I come here, um, so University UT Dallas. Um, a lot of people in Dallas like partner up with these universities and sign up for airport volunteering. Like they pick up students and drop them off to campus or wherever their housing is. And I didn't know that before, and I just signed up. Like this is a free service, so I'm like, yeah, that saves me money to buy an Uber ride or something. Um, so the person who was picking me up from the airport, his name is Jeff Baker. Um, He welcomed me to the US at Dallas Airport and told me all about Dallas and how he has signed up for this volunteered for picking up students, and he told me about home group as well. Like there's this group that meets on Friday nights, which is specifically for international students, where since most international students in the US don't get to visit a US family or US home while they're here, so they open up US homes, family welcome students, um, to share them, welcome them into the country, become their friends, and share with them about Jesus as well. So that's where I got to meet that friend, and he welcomed me with open arms, and um, so I started going to these home groups where I met 20 of volunteers like Jeff, um, and like 50 of us students would go mainly for free food and just having fun on Fridays. But slowly, I started seeing something different about these people, the volunteers. Um, they were not doing any of this to for any personal gain, or they were not getting paid, or they were not getting paid for this. They were genuinely loving on us. I had never seen anything like that back in India. This sort of unconditional love. Growing up, relationships in India were very transactional. You if you did something for someone, either they would expect something in return, or you would um, culturally have to give something in return. So out here, unconditional love was very new for me. These people were um, checking in on me during the weekdays, like how are you doing? If you need a ride to Indian grocery store, we can help come pick you up. We can go out for coffee or something. And I came here in 2019, so next year COVID started. So especially during COVID, they were a huge help. Um, they were really truly a godsend because we were stuck in our apartments, but they constantly were helping out with dropping off groceries or helping us out with even dropping off meals or picking us up, taking us to the grocery stores or something. Um, and that's during COVID is when these friends slowly start becoming my family because we would still hang out during COVID once a while. Um, and that's when slowly they started telling me more and more about Jesus, where I did a Bible study with them. Again, I thought of that as just to this is some other Western God that I can learn about. And again, take some moral values out of this religion, but I have nothing to do with God because there is no God.
mm,
Um, but Jeff and these other volunteers still just loved on me. They didn't. Um, they loved me unconditionally, and they would say that um, even we might make mistakes. We are not perfect, but God that we follow, Jesus, He is perfect, and His love is perfect. Um, then around my graduation, um, I was having a really good conversation with Jeff just about sharing my own personal faith journey or what I experienced in India in Hinduism. Um, and he asked me these two questions, which really opened my eyes or which really made me think deeply, which were if you were to die right now, what are the chances that you'll make it to heaven? And if God was to ask you, why should I let you into heaven? What would you say? And I was blank. I had no idea. I'm like, yeah, maybe a 5 or 6. I've been a average person, so yeah, he should let me in, I guess. But that question was even after that conversation, it was always on the back of my mind. Like, um, do I really know what's gonna happen to me after this? But I still didn't really, because of all the science questions and just uh, the questions that I had, which I didn't really know if God could answer those. So um, I sort of started going to church as well on Sunday service on for Sundays with Jeff, but again, just to learn some moral values. Like at church, they would say, "Yeah, with God or with Jesus, you can do this, you can accomplish this." I would just take the personally, I would just take the God or the Jesus part out of it. I would put myself, oh, with on my own strength, I can do this. If I adopt these moral values, I can achieve this.
mm,
Um, and then my friend Jeff invited me to this thing at our church called Great Questions
mm,
on Monday night, where it's a safe space in a room where you can go and ask any questions about God, about faith, about Christianity. Um, so the first night I went in, I just listened in, where these four people were just answering questions that people had, and I connected with one of those who was serving on that team, Brett Brewster, and I started meeting him one on one for hours. Then I would prepare a list of questions to ask him. I would go on Google and Google tough questions to ask Christians. So from dinosaur questions to um, even deep theological questions or mistakes in Bibles or um, yeah, I had a list of 100 questions that I would ask him in a week. Um, but he very lovingly and patiently answered all of my questions, mostly using the Bible or even some scientific researches or um, just articles on online, which really opened my eyes. And that's for the first time when I truly understood the gospel for the first time. Um, that yeah, there is a God, and Jesus who came down from heaven, took on flesh, lived a perfect life, and died for me, died for my sin, and then rose up from death. Um, in the beginning, yeah, like when I was still understanding it, um, like the true grace and just the idea that there is a God who would do that um, was still unreal to me. It took me a lot of time to just understand that and soak it in. Um, and once I did, it was still just in my heart, my still in my mind. My heart didn't really comprehend it or accept it or surrender to Jesus at that point. In my brain, I knew that yeah, this is true. I can see, I can feel it's true. I can see the evidence, but in my heart, it was still not surrendered to Jesus. Um, so that's when later on I started reading the Bible and I would pray to God like, God, if you're real, please answer me, so I can know in my heart as well, and I can surrender it to you. So I was looking back, I was being prideful, asking God to give me some more evidence or proof um, that I can surrender to Him. So I started going to more and more to church and started getting more involved. That's when I signed up for regeneration. It's a 12-month recovery program at church. Um, and when I started going there, I saw all these people just coming in and sharing honestly uh, about how uh, they're falling short in their lives, but still they're praying to God. Um, and over the time, over the course of weeks, I could see the difference, like God is working in their lives. Um, I could see in their how they were sharing, how their lives were. I could see there is something happening in their lives, but my life was still the same. And it was not clicking for me, like what's going wrong. Um, that's when I truly prayed and just, I think God opened my eyes that I've still not surrendered to Jesus uh, completely. I've not made him Lord over my life. And that's when I think that's when it clicked in my heart as well that I don't have to wait for him to give me a proof or evidence that he's real. Um, I can take that step of faith, knowing in my mind that yeah, he's that this is all true. I can surrender it to him right now. So, and this was around 3 years ago. Um, yeah. So since then, um, yeah, God has really opened my eyes, and um, yeah, just to see that He has not been with me just since I came to the U.S., but all throughout my life. How He saved me from that near fatal accident. How He pulled me. Out from depression and those suicidal thoughts where I was almost about to end my life as well. Um, how he's been good. and faithful throughout my life. And yeah.
Well, that's good stuff. Um, so when I guess between when you asked for proof from
Mm,
God to like proof that he was
mm,
real, and between I guess now, um,
mm,
if someone asked you like what proof have you seen? Because it kind of
mm,
sounds like you chose to believe without seeing in
mm.
your mind sufficient proof. Um, would you say you've since seen sufficient proof, or you still are like you still don't think there's sufficient proof? Um, but you, I guess, yeah, I guess take it from
Mm.
there. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So yeah. I was sharing, yeah, in my heart, um, it was, not clicking, even though my brain knew that, yeah, this is all true, and my brain, I would say, had sufficient proof.
Mm,
Um, but for my heart, it took a while. But since then, since when I, even in my heart, did I surrendered to Jesus, I would say, yeah, I've seen more than sufficient proof. God has been faithful and like answering prayers, providing so many different things in big and mighty ways, in very small ways,
mm,
in so many ways that even I don't see, to be honest. And I know God is working for my good,
mm,
even when I don't see it. Um, he has, I would say, like the change that even I've seen in myself, and people around me have shared that the change that they've seen in me can truly be from God and nothing else. It's not on my own strength.
mm,
Um, uh, I've been, I'm able to love my family and people around me more because of God. I'm able to, um, how do I put this? Yeah, this, yeah, love others around me a lot more.
mm,
Be, instead of doing everything out of selfish gain, um, in my heart, I know this is, I'm not doing this for my own pride or my own gain, but out of love for others and just to serve others. And I feel like those things can only come from God and not from anything that I can do on my own strength.
mm. Yeah. Going back to great questions,
Mm.
do you remember any specific questions that you asked that you got the answer to, and you were like, "Oh wow, like that's big," or like, "Wow,
Yeah.
that's like super impactful for me."
Mm. Um, yeah, I think a lot of the creation questions were really impactful. Um, coming from, in since high school, um, being a science engineer guy, um, and believing in sort of Big Bang theory, or um, when I sort of asked the question about the Big Bang theory, I was, expecting him to just say, this is not true, or um, like Bible doesn't say that, but he shared that like there can be different sort of thoughts about it, and he actually does believe in, yes, there was sort of something, but um, something cannot come out of nothing. There
Mm,
has to be some beginning, or something had to create that as well. And that really never crossed my mind that, okay, even for that to happen,
mm.
there has to something has to exist.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um and then in Dallas, I found out, like, one of my friends, again through the home group volunteer, um there is a museum out here in Dallas called the Creation Museum.
Mm,
um I got to visit that and just learn. There's like so many even scientists, so many um scientific researches going on right now. which talk more about even not evolution but adaptation, how us as humans have adapted, um, and God uses adaptation for us to for so that we can sustain on this earth. Um, so these were some of the most impactful questions for me, which really opened my eyes. Definitely, and then there were some questions about some fun one, like the dinosaur ones,
Mhm.
uh, or sort of like the timeline of the creation as well. Like when God talks about the 6 days of creation,
Hmm.
um, he talked about like how Genesis, or even how for me, um, I'm trying to read Genesis as a historical evidence book of creation, but that's not the purpose of that book.
Hmm.
And how I can, how I'm trying to take that text out of context right now, and the days also doesn't have to be taken literally. Um,
Hmm.
so there was some, yeah, so there were some of these lot of scientific questions which really opened my eyes.
Yeah. Now that kind of gets into, okay, there is a creator.
Hmm,
Now, what kind of pushed you in the direction of um, that creator is the God of the Bible
hmm,
versus like uh, the God of Islam
hmm.
or one of the Hindu gods?
Yeah. So for that one, later on, so with my mentor Brett, we went more into sort of why Jesus is the only way.
Hmm.
Um, because in Hinduism, growing up, we are shared about there can be a billions of god, anything can be a god. Some Hindus follow Hindu gods and they just add on Jesus. Um, so for me, that's what I was thinking. Why Jesus is the only way, or what separates this from everything else? So one of the first things that stood out to me was just the book of Bible itself. How um, it can be. It's not written by just one author. It
Hmm.
has over the period of thousands of years written by different authors, like 40 authors, but how it shares one story. It's not contradicting itself.
Hmm.
Um, it's just one linear story, and how there are like thousands of transcripts that can be traced back. Um, and there's so many scrolls um, and prophecies as well. How the book of Isaiah
Hmm.
um, shares about Jesus hundreds of years before Jesus, and even that book, Isaiah, there was the discovery of Dead Sea Scrolls, where um, the oldest scrolls are even 600 years before Christ, and the book of Isaiah is literally talking about coming of Christ.
Hmm.
Um, and there is no other books in Hinduism or Islam or any other book which talks about prophecies which have happened.
Hmm.
Um, and then other thing about Jesus was I noticed that all the other religions, in a way, talk about Jesus as a god. Um, in Hinduism also, there are like a lot of Hindu priests or who talk about like Jesus as one of the gods, that he's a reincarnation of God.
Hmm.
Um, some Buddhists talk about Jesus being an enlightened person like Buddha. In Islam, they talk about Jesus as a prophet. So I saw like everyone is talking about Jesus as a god, but Jesus said himself that he is the only way and the truth and the life. So if everyone is pointing towards Jesus in a way,
Hmm.
and Jesus is like, no, just me. Like, okay, that has to be true.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, are there other Hindu, because my understanding of a lot of the Hindu gods are they're like mythical. Um, are there any other Hindu gods who actually lived and were human, or is Jesus the only one?
Um, so i- the Hindu books, there is no conclusive one Hindu book. That's why there is no one um, founder of Hinduism as well. Even the word Hinduism, um, actually, when you sort of see the history of it, the word Hindu comes from the river Sindh, which is in India, and the Persians who came to India couldn't pronounce the word Sindh, and they would say Hind. So the people living in that area became the word Hindus. These are Hindus. So even the word Hinduism or Hindus is belongs to like roots down to like the people who live in the region.
Hmm,
Um, and it's a um that's why it's like very diverse mix of people following different practices, different gods, combined into one group.
hmm,
So in Hinduism, they believe in some gods which have either reincarnated or took on human form, and then now are in heaven. So the closest one that some of my friends compare Jesus to is Krishna.
hmm.
Like Krishna,
Yeah.
um, they believe is an avatar of another one of the main Hindu gods who
Hmm.
took on avatar as Krishna and then is now back in heaven.
Now, was Krishna uh, like someone who actually lived?
Yes.
Okay. When
Yeah.
when when did he live?
I'm not sure on the timeline. It was maybe 4000 BC.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Super long ago. Okay. And there's like manuscript evidence, or there's
Uh, so that's where, for me, it didn't really click or make sense because for Hinduism, the evidence or manuscripts are not that evident or not that conclusive,
hmm,
where I can hold true to it. Okay, this is something that I can, put my faith in 100%.
sure.
That wasn't there. There are like this is like just one author who has written this story who wasn't even there. So
Hmm,
he's just writing a story hundreds of years or thousands of years later. Um, and then there can be another author who's writing a similar story, but it's like still, it's not the same.
hmm.
So that's why there are like a lot of contradictions as well in Hinduism, and just people can believe in same God but follow different traditions or still have different ideas about the same God.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, Hinduism was always kind of hard for me to understand simply because uh I think it's the lack of like a concrete text that everyone agrees upon. Whereas like Islam is like, okay, they believe the Quran, and you can just go to the Quran and read what all Muslims believe to be scripture. And yeah, then Buddhism is like there's not like a holy text, so it's like, okay, what do Buddhists believe to be true? And it seems to differ quite a bit. So
Yeah, even so, Buddhism, they say, also came like Gautam Buddha was a Hindu, so it sort of came out from Hinduism. Like he
okay,
saw
yep,
the things happen in Hinduism which he didn't agree with.
mm,
Um, so and funny thing about Hinduism or Hindus, um, one of my friends shares who have been learning about even more about Hinduism or how to reach Hindus. How he puts it is everything that you can say about um, Hindus, the complete opposite will also be true because it is just so.
Hmm.
diverse. Everyone believes. Um, there can be someone who believes in praying to idols. Someone can not pray to idols.
Hmm.
Someone um, can follow thousands of gods. Someone will follow just one god, or someone will follow not god or not really any god. Can be agnostic and still be a Hindu.
Hmm. Okay.
So Hindu is more. So that's why Hinduism is more of a cultural term than a religious term. Now that I'm looking or learning more about it now.
Okay. Interesting. So you mentioned, I'm going even further back here. So you mentioned
Mhm.
when you came to UTD and you were going to those Friday night things, there's like 50 other
Hmm.
students there.
Yeah.
Were they,
So
yeah,
hmm.
go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, around 50 other students, and so when I came in 2019, um, and especially in UTD, a lot of the students who came here, majority of the students were from India who came for their
Hmm.
um, master's level education. Sort of 50 of those students, like 40 would be from India, then 10 from some other countries.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you say, like, of those 50, like, half of them became Christians, all of them became Christians, a quarter, or are you not really sure? I'm just
Mm.
curious.
Not really sure, but I would say less than a quarter.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were were there any Christians like that joined that were Christians before? Or okay. So there
Yeah,
were
yeah. So there's a lot of so in India we have around 5% of the population is Christian. So there were some students who come here from India who already either are more like Catholic Christians or
hmm,
they actually are more Jesus followers. So there are like these other groups as well at UTD, which are even geared more towards students um, who are Christians.
hmm,
But still, on our Friday nights, we did have some students in our group um, who were Indian Christians. Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the cool thing about even the other group at UTD, which is geared towards students who are Christians, is um, it's a they try to it's like a home church at UTD where they get to be part of that community, the students, and then also um, a lot of the volunteers try to engage with those students to even train them to be future leaders. Like if they go back to India, they can be like small home church planters or lead home churches.
Hmm,
Um, so it's really cool to see that happening at university, where they're training up future leaders like this.
hmm. Well, yeah, that's awesome. So was there anything else that you wanted to share? Like any other
Mm.
specific events or anything that you saw God do?
Um,
All good if not,
yeah,
but
yeah. I think God has been amazing, and especially with my family, with my parents. I would say there are like, a lot of barriers to Christianity, especially in India, just with the history, culture, um, with the history of British rule. There were a lot of forced conversions, and then culturally as well. Because of that, uh, if someone decides to follow Jesus or become a Christian, um, it's a it's seen as a person denying their own culture or denying their own identity in a way and
mm,
leaving their identity and putting on something new. Um, so it's seen as someone just leaving their home in a way, or leaving their parents or leaving their family behind.
mm,
Um, so for me, when I put my faith in Jesus, there was that fear in my mind. How would my family see me, or how would my family accept me? Or how can I just even reach them slowly? How I can share about Jesus with them? Um, but God really opened my eyes, gave me wisdom on it, and even put some wonderful people around me, um, who helped me with it. How I can better love my family, honor them, and just slowly share with them about Jesus. So a few months later, like my parents, my mom, and my sister came, um, and I started sharing with them. I'm reading the Bible. I'm learning about this. Learning about Jesus. I go to a church, um, and we had some really good conversations about that. We even they joined me to church a few times, and over the course of time, I've been slowly sharing more and more with them.
mm,
And last year, I got married. And on a wedding day, we had an Indian ceremony and American ceremony. So Indian ceremony, if you look at the pictures, or if some Indian looks at the ceremony, for them it will look like a complete like Hindu ceremony
mm,
happening. But if you hear what was happening or what was being shared, the officiant Anil Ji um, is a Indian Christian officiant, um, who borrows a lot of elements from Hinduism, um, like some steps or some things, some traditions which are done, but everything is around Jesus. Like he's sharing about Jesus, he's using Bible verses, he's translated them to Hindi and Sanskrit,
mm,
um, and he's sharing stories from the Bible, and that's how we got married in front of my family, hundreds of my family members and friends.
mm,
So that was truly a work from God, and how they received it and how they loved it. They had tons of really good questions to ask our officiant after the wedding ceremony
mm,
as well. So it's really cool to see um, God do that. Like 3 years ago, if you were to ask me, I would have shared, yeah, my family, um, just with the fear that of sharing all this with my family. Um, I was, yeah, super scared and had no idea how to do it, and was sure like um, that, yeah, my family would disown me.
mm,
But um, my family, yeah, they have been super supportive and even helpful, and um, they still love me, and I'm still there's that opportunity of door to share about Jesus more and more every day with them.
mm,
I still pray for them to be saved, and for them to know Jesus as the one and only God.
mm. So, is your wife from India?
No, she's from here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you shared with me a little bit yesterday,
Mm.
off the record, just like how you guys met.
Hmm.
Um, so that was through a friend,
Through
right?
the
A
same
mutual friend.
friend, Jeff. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it was through
Mm.
Jeff.
Yeah, through
Okay,
Jeff. Yeah.
cool. How
Yeah.
how old is Jeff? About? Is he like in his 40s, 50s?
64.
Okay,
64. Yeah.
nice. Okay.
Mm.
Um, and what's your wife's name?
Rachel.
Rachel. Nice.
Yeah.
So, um, of where was the wedding? Was it here in India,
The wedding was here in Dallas. Yes.
Dallas? Okay.
Mm.
And you had a lot of family come from India for the wedding.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. And did they know going into it that, like, who would be officiating and,
Mhm.
like, that scripture, like, the Bible would be involved, all that?
Mhm. My parents, yes, because they're the only ones in my family who I'm like super close to, and I who have visited me before, so I've shared with them about my faith, and taken them to church. And before the wedding, even for the officiant, I shared with them, this is the officiant and this is what he'll be sharing. And um, just to make it easier, we even had a Zoom call together with my parents and the officiant, just to share sort of the expectations for them to not be surprised by anything. Um, and they were, yeah, they were 100% okay with it. Just
Yeah.
knowing that some of the Indian traditions were being followed, they only cared about that, like it
Mm.
being Indian, but not being like Hindu gods. They were okay with that.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, when rest of the family saw, um, they also loved most of it. Some of my family did have questions, um, for the officiant, like why are you only sharing about Jesus? Why not the some of the other gods?
Mm.
Um, which the officiant had some really good conversations with them after the ceremony, on why he only prays to Jesus, or why he only talked about Jesus in the ceremony.
Mm. And how did you choose the who officiated?
So through a friend, um early on in my faith journey, God really put some wonderful people around me. So one of my friends, his name is Rob Adams. Um, he has lived in India for 8 years, and when he was in India, he just saw like how even like Hindus worship, um, the temples and how they do worship. Um, so he also took on a lot of elements, and now in Dallas, he does the same thing, like Indian worship, but to Jesus. And he's the one who's been sort of like helping me even learn more about the barriers to Christianity in India, or how I can reach Hindus better. Um, so he, and he put me on contact with Anil Ji, the officiant, who's from Chicago, who has been doing, who grew up in India but then came to the US, and um, has been doing this for many, many years now.
Mm.
He has written even several of his books where he has translated verses from English to Hindi or Sanskrit, or written like Hindi worship songs.
Mm.
So I met him around 2 years ago for my housewarming ceremony. So in India, when you buy a home, or if you move into like a new place, you do like a sort of, yeah, sort of pray ahead, and this um so we call it like a um before even you enter the house, you have the house blessing ceremony
Mm.
basically. So when I bought the house, my parents wanted me to get a house blessing ceremony done by a priest.
Mm.
And I was conflicted, like I don't want like any Hindu priest from a temple coming and doing that.
Yeah.
um so I reached out to my friend Rob, if um and then he told me about Anilji.
Mm.
Like he basically is an Indian Christian priest. Like he is the perfect one, and a godsend if he can do it.
Mm.
So um and Anilji did the house blessing ceremony at my house 2 years ago.
Mm.
Um even that was amazing to see, just how he reuses like some of the Indian elements, um and worships to God, worships to Jesus still. And even that fun, a lot of my Hindu friends and some family friends came and saw that, and they loved it.
Mm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's when I got engaged to Rachel. I knew like if we were doing an um, Indian ceremony, we have to have an LG do that for us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Mm,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool because I mean, there's so many cultural things that are in and of themselves, I would
Mm,
say agnostic.
mm,
And like you can fill it with Hindu gods or you can fill it with Jesus.
Hmm.
So that's cool that you yeah, kept those cultural
Hmm.
celebrations and norms
Yeah.
that made it all about Jesus.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, that's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, and even for that, I've been learning, and um, f- uh, and again, it can be some personal convictions for someone. Like for um, there are some elements which can be a bit too close or too um
Hmm,
convicting for me to not do that.
sure.
Um, which can be even conflicting. Like this reminds me of Hindu gods, so this is something that I don't want to like um step over and do that.
Hmm,
Um, so I'm sure for everyone there's like their personal convictions on to what
yeah.
extent they can do that. The cultural element part.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Nice.
Right.
Is there anything else you want to share or
Uh, I think yeah, just like I know yeah, we both met in Cube Disciple, and that has been um, a huge thing. I think really helpful. Like early on, um, as a new believer, I was on fire for Lord and just yeah, I want to read the complete Bible um, in a year and start the Bible plan
yeah.
on the app and reading like 5 chapters a day. And
Yeah.
slowly, quickly, it becomes a checklist thing just to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna put it on the car when I'm driving and just sort of mark it off checklist. Okay, I've done 5 chapters of my day and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's where we met at our church, Cube Disciple, um, where I truly learned some super helpful ways to have some spiritual discipline or ways to that I still carry on. How to genuinely and faithfully, read God's word, how to spend time with Him, quiet time, um, how to maybe even pray to Him. Um, so and how even scripture memorization can be so effective and such a good thing in your walk with God.
Hmm,
Um, and yeah, and doing that with others on a table where you have uh, a leader and other people around you who can just share their walk with God looks like and how you can learn from them as well
hmm.
um, was a huge thing for me, especially as a new believer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Mm,
Mm. You mentioned like wanting to witness to Indians, witness to
mm,
Hindus.
mm,
Um, if if someone like who's practicing Hinduism asked you,
mm,
"Hey, uh, what I guess if you could share like one or two things to
mm,
try to convince me to become a Christian, what would you say?"
mm,
And I guess how would you respond to them?
yeah. So yeah, I would ask them what do they believe in. What is their personal relationship with God? What does that look like? What does their walk with God look like? And from my own story, those two questions were really eye opening for me. So I would ask them those two questions, like, um, if you were to die right now, what are the chances you'll make it to heaven? And if God asks you, why should I let you into heaven? What would you say? Uh, because in Hinduism, these questions or um, afterlife is always on the back of or like the last thing because you have like sort of when in a game when you die you have unlimited lives so you
Mhm,
play very carelessly. But if you have one life,
mm,
you really think about every decision that you make.
mm.
So that was really eye opening for me. That yeah, if there is no afterlife, there is no reincarnation, what would you change in your life right now? So that's
Mm.
what I would ask them.
Yeah, wow, that's fair.
So that's a similar question that I even asked my mom. Those two questions, and my mom's answer was like, I've never really thought about afterlife, and that's something that like she said like that's something that I don't want to think about
Mm.
because that would stress me out too much.
Sure.
So I never think about it. But
Yeah,
that's a question that maybe yeah we should ask them.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. I'm excited to go back through this, and thank you for your patience with all the technical issues I was having.
It happens with me all the time. Thank you so much, Blake. Thank you so much for this platform, asking me to share what God has done in my life, and thank you for such really good questions. Thank you for your friendship as well.
Hmm,
Um, yeah,
I appreciate it. Yep.
mhm. It's
Now,
always fun to share. It's every time I get to share my story is such a good reminder of how God is good and faithful. Um, Especially to me, how He's really just saved me. So um, I love sharing about Him, what He's done in my life. So thank you.